Okay, inshallah. Perfect. All right. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. In the name of Allah, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and all those who follow him until the day of judgment. Do you guys see the text?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, we do.
Awesome, mashallah. So let's get to work, inshallah. So we're not gonna move forward. We're just gonna try to get as much as we can from the Salat al-Jama'ah. So let us inshallah ta'ala begin with that. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Okay, first and foremost, let me get this out. Okay. One second. All right. So we're doing the Salat al-Jama'ah. Just briefly, we're gonna read the text, inshallah, and then we're gonna move on with the explanation. Okay, it's gonna be a little bit more details than we covered, so that the congregational prayer is extremely important. So let us begin. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. قال المؤلف رحمه الله. قال المؤلف, out of manners we say, the author, may Allah have mercy on him, said. قال المؤلف رحمه الله. فصل, chapter. وصلاة الجماعة سنة مؤكدة وعلى المأمون أن ينوي الإتمام دون الإمام ويجوز أن يتم الحر بالعبد والبالغ بالمراهق ولا تصح قدوة الرجل بامرأة ولا قارئ بأمي وأي موضع صلى في المسجد بالصلاة الإمام فيه وهو عالم بالصلاة أجزأه ما لم يتقدم عليه وإن صلى في المسجد والمأمون خارج المسجد قريبا منه وهو عالم بالصلاة ولا حائل هناك جاز. All right, Bismillah. So let me have brother, let me start. Go ahead, brother Charles. If you can do me a favor, read the section, please. Let's just make it a quick, inshallah.
Bismillah. Congregational prayer is an emphasized sunnah. Mu'akkada.
No, congregation. If you say congressional, then that's politics.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
Congregational prayer
There
is
we
an
go.
emphasized sunnah. Mu'akkada. Followers must attend to follow, but it is not required that the imam intend to lead. It is permissible and valid for someone who is free to be led by a slave and for one who is mature to pray behind an adolescent. It is not valid for a male to be led by a female, nor for one who reads al-Fatiha correctly to be led by someone who does not. Wherever one prays in a mosque behind the imam while aware of the imam's prayer, the prayer suffices, provided one does not advance closer to the direction of prayer than his imam.
Good. Awesome, mashallah. I think we might have
There's one more piece on the next page.
Yes, sir. Yes. Go ahead.
If the imam prays inside a mosque and the follower prays behind and close outside, it is permissible provided that the follower is aware of the imam's prayer and there is no barrier between them.
Good. So the closeness, as is mentioned here, is 470, around 470 to 500 feet distance, right? If a person is within that distance and and they can hear the prayer, and they know what the imam is doing, then he can follow, right? It's the same thing. Like, for example, we were tested during COVID, right? And somebody will ask, "Hey, can I pray my prayer with the imam while he is doing it virtual?" If the distance is more than that, no. You, like, for example, Juma, you can listen to the khutbah, right? You can listen to the khutbah, but then because of the distance, you end up praying dhuhr. You get the reward because you're not able to do it, right? So that is the ruling, right? So let's Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're not gonna go to the shortening of the prayer, right? So let us go through. I'm gonna go through this through Kitab al-Iqna of Imam al-Shirbini, rahimahullah ta'ala. So it's a little broader text. So here, Salat al-Jama'a, the dalil for Salat al-Jama'a, إذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة. If you're amongst them, then establish the prayer. And the Salat al-Jama'a, the Salat in the prayer in a group, is 25 times better, right? 25 times better. There's two hadith. One says 25, one says 27.
27,
Yeah, so there's 27 is the prayer of congregation, right? Anywhere, but you make it in a group. And then you have 25, the prayer, I'm sorry, the prayer, yeah, that's what it says. The prayer of in congregation in a group is 27 times better than the prayer of the individual, right? That you're praying by yourself. And then the other hadith says the prayer in the masjid is 25 times better than the prayer at home. Okay, so now there's a virtue for praying in the masjid in congregation. In addition, there's a virtue of praying in congregation. So if you add all of that up, 27 and 20, right? And 27 times 10, 270. And then 25 times 10, that's 250. That's 520, right? If you count, right? In addition to the preparation is rewarded for, the transportation to the masjid is rewarded for, the making of wudu is rewarded for. Every step is a good deed. Every step removes it. Look how much virtue there is in going to the mosque, right? So then the salat in congregation was not established until later on, before the hijrah. Before the hijrah was the Isra Miraj. The message in Mecca was 13 years. Towards the end, Allah ordered the 5 daily prayers. It wasn't in the beginning. They used to pray, but they used to pray on their own. But towards the end, Allah ordered the 5 daily prayers. So when they went to Medina, they established the first Jummah. There was no Jummah in Mecca for 13 years. For 13 years, right? And so the first Jummah was in Mecca and in Medina. And there's a masjid that's called Masjid Jummah, the Masjid of Jummah in Medina. And this masjid is where the first prayer took place. So you can see that mosque, right? So now you have in regards of the ruling it says here sunnah muakkada, right? Sunnah muakkada. I believe in the note in the bottom, and it's mentioned also in Kitab al-Iqna, the strongest position is that it is a communal obligation, fard kifaya. So you can maybe note it in the bottom that the sunnah muakkada means an emphasize. Sunnah muakkada, yeah, is an emphasized sunnah. Fard kifaya is stronger than a emphasize sunnah. So here, this is technical, right? It's rulings. So, what is the ruling of praying in congregation? Though we heard the hadith about its virtue, is it obligatory for me to come to the masjid 5 times a day? Are we able to do that? Are we able to do that with our work schedule, with our life schedule? Think about it before answering. Think about it logically. Are we able to come to the masjid every day, 5 times a day? Is difficult, right? If you're going to school, if you're working, if you're going to appointments, if you're shopping, if you're cooking, if you're doing all this, it will be impossible unless you live next to the mosque. But if you live 10 minutes from the mosque, and now, for example, Asr is at 3 p.m., and then you take, let's say, 15 minutes, you go home 15 minutes. Right? You prayed, by the time you prayed, and you go and you say hi to people, and you leave the mosque, 3 o'clock, prayer ends around 3:10. By the time you finish greeting people on the way out, and you get to the car, it's approximately 3:30. By the time you get home, if you go straight and you don't have to go get some milk or get something, it's like almost 4 o'clock, and the adhan for Maghrib is at 4:30, 4:30 something, 4:37. And if you want to make it, you have to leave from your house like around 4:15, and you just got home at 4, right? So would you make it? Right? So it's that's the reality. So therefore, it is a emphasized sunnah for those that are able to do it. It's a highly recommended. But now the ruling is fard kifaya. What is the difference? Sunnah mu'akkada is highly recommended. That the Prophet ﷺ himself, he never abandoned it. And the companions also. But the companions, they worked near the masjid. They leave the shops open. They will come, pray, go back to the shops. Easy, no commute, no snow, no this. Easy to go back and forth, right? Now, fard kifaya means, fard kifaya means that, one second. Okay. All right. So, fard kifaya means that if it becomes difficult and everybody in the masjid says we all can't do it, so these prayers, we're not going to do prayer in the masjid, right? Then the whole community gets the blame for it. But if a group does the prayer, then the whole community is absolved of the sin. That means fard kifaya, fard, that if a group does it, it suffices. That's why during COVID, many people were praying at home, right? A lot of the masajid had a few people from the administrators go to the masjid and pray congregational prayer just to establish it. Jummah, they would go, would do the Jummah in the mosque, but it's not open to the public. It was just like a few congregants and the imam, and we transmit it online. But we did it in the masjid to keep the Jummah services alive in the masjid during that pandemic, right? So that's the importance of understanding the ruling, right? The understanding the ruling. If there is at least 3 people in a town, they can establish the congregational prayer. If there's 3 people, okay? If there's 3
Assalamualaikum.
people, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have a question on that.
Inshallah.
The brothers from Stroudsburg, we travel to different masjids. right? So I don't know if a particular masjid will be considered. They did three in this masjid, but in this masjid over here, the imam was by himself and he just did the masjid, did the prayer. Because sometime I may go up into the Strasbourg and the imam is there by himself making the salat, or he may have made salat and then, because I don't know if for sure that it was at least three there to make the salat. So is it something that, oh, no, I'm not counting this masjid. I'm going to count the masjid down here where I know there's three because I go to that masjid too. I mean, like,
You mean 3 people?
yeah, three people.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's sometimes every masjid don't have three people sometimes.
Yeah.
There may be times where the imam stays by himself in the masjid up in Strasbourg, and he may pray by himself and then go back in his room where he's at because he live in the masjid.
Yeah, but what he would pray because of that, he would pray, I will say, dhuhr. He would pray dhuhr and do it. Yeah, that's um
But I'm saying if it's not three people, what happens for that community not praying in the masjid if they considered it to be
yeah, the thing is,
obligatory?
no, that's why it's not obligatory. It's fard kifaya, right? If there is not, if that number is not there, right, then then that's that reality. But at least establishing the prayer therein, right, is important to establish it, right, at least on its proper time and so on. But that's the reality. I think that's something that it should be discussed so that at least two more people can go and the imam can do the khutbah and do the and establish it. It doesn't have to be an imam, it could be anybody, right, at least to establish the service. But again, our circumstances are different, right? The Muslim world is different. There's so many people, right? Here is different. People are scattered, right? So at least if a person makes the intention and they, let's say, do the prayer and, make dua and do everything preparation for Jummah, but they're too far from a masjid and that's the only place they have and there's not many congregants, then they establish whatever they can. They can't give a khutbah to themselves, but at least they can, if they don't have the number, they can pray dhuhr, hoping, with Allah that when, if Allah, sends people their way, that they will establish a jama'ah. So that's a test, that's a test. But I think if there's a masjid closer, right? If it's a masjid closer within the traveling range, then there should be an effort to join a congregation that's happening. Like if the masjid is like 30 miles, 20 miles, it's Jummah, it's once a week. There should be an effort to kind of go to the other masjid to pray.
So you only applying this to the Friday prayer, Juma.
Yeah, so Salat al Jama'ah, that's Jummah.
Okay.
Salat al Jama'ah is congregation. So if there's no group, then the person prays, right? The person prays, the person makes the adhan, the person makes the iqama. If there is no group, the angels will come with him
Yeah.
and they will pray with him.
It's normally a group at the Juma.
Yeah,
I was
Jummah is
thinking, I was thinking the regular days.
yeah, so the thing is, at least to preserve the prayer in those places, and that's many places in America where the masjid is isolated, right? There's many places like that in America. Yeah, so now also, for example, the congregational prayer is um, the who can attend the congregational prayer, right? In in the ruling, it says that it's better. There's a hadith that says that the best place for the man to pray is in the mosque, and the best place for the woman is in the house, right? What does that mean, right? Does that mean that the woman should not come to mosque? Some people, they took that hadith and made it as, even some imams, even some leaders, and they interpret it as the woman shouldn't come to the masjid, right? The woman should come to the masjid. because the hadith says the best place for the woman is the house. But there's another hadith. And this hadith says, uh, um, if your women folk want to go to the masjid, isn't Sahih Muslim, want to go to the masjid, then don't prevent them. Don't prevent them, right? So now how do we consolidate? The authentic hadith, how do we consolidate? Allah understands that the women have certain circumstances, right? Certain circumstances. And these circumstances are like, these circumstances, let me ask, Sister Khadija.
Yes.
How are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah.
How are you doing? How is the weather in the Lone Star State?
Hace frío ahora.
Frío. We have
Sí.
snow. What's the temperature like? This is a
This morning, 41.
oh,
You know,
mashallah.
in Texas, that's cold.
Yeah, it is very cold. That's careful with the pipes freezing up, right? Yeah, alhamdulillah. So I want you to do us the honor, inshallah, to explain the situation about like the consideration for the woman going to the mosque and why, there's a benefit also if she going to the mosque or praying at home.
What is the benefit?
Yeah, like what's the wisdom behind it? How do we consolidate? Let me rephrase it. Like, how do we consolidate between the hadith that says the best place to pray for the woman is at home, and if your woman folk want to go to the masjid, then no one can prevent them. You don't prevent them.
Oh, I don't know. You put me on the spot.
Think about it, sister. Think about it. It's okay. Think about it. Like the realities of that women go through, right? That men don't go through. The pregnancy and going taking the kids to the doctor and picking them up from school and doing all of this and washing the clothes and drying the clothes and ironing the clothes and all of these things, because sometimes they take that load, and it's a give and take. If the woman is by choice, right? And of course, by consultation between the spouse, chooses to stay at home, and the husband chooses to take the load, then she carries all this as caretaking of the home and the husband. The husband goes and he is the breadwinner. If they're both breadwinners, that's a different story. Right? There has to be some consideration. So Islam is very considerate of those realities. It is not just one way. It is not one way that the women should stay home all the time. All women should stay home and not pray in the masjid. Do they go to the mall? Do they go to the supermarket? Do they go to Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club? Do they know the specials to buy you that nice shirt that you like when the winter comes, and your nice shoes because you're busy working and you don't have time to go shop, right? If she should stay at home for worship, shouldn't she stay at home also for shopping? So who's going to shop? Brother, how are you going to eat? You might miss an ingredient and the rice might not taste the way you like it. And then you might say, but Imam, that's a special circumstances. Yes. So if there's special circumstances and the woman prays at home, she gets the same reward as if she prayed in the masjid. But if she's able to come to the mosque and doesn't have no hindrance, then no one can prevent her. You see that? It's like understanding this is fiqh. This is Islamic jurisprudence. It takes every case in consideration. These narrations are there, but the application is not one, this hadith for everybody, like with one paintbrush. No. There are sisters that are going to college, that are not married, that have time, that want to come to the masjid, that want to come to a lecture, that want to come to programs. You can tell them stay at home, right? No, right? That's so therefore the reason why it says the best place for the woman is at home is because if she doesn't have to, if she just gave birth and she doesn't want to be exposed to people that sometimes become sick and don't wear a mask and just out of charity they transmit everything that they have, right? No, like, and if they get sick, then the baby's gonna get sick, right? So, and she wants to protect her child, so she wants to keep him safe. So therefore, if she prays at home and she wants to protect herself, protect her child, then she gets the reward as if she prayed in the mosque. But the man, if he prays at home, he doesn't get that reward. Right? If he has the ability to go to the mosque, if he has the ability, he should try to go. But it's still not fard ayn. Fard ayn is that he must go. Fard ayn, he must go. Like, for example, what is the ruling of praying 5 times a day? Fard ayn. Every Muslim that has reasoning, that is a person that is a Muslim that has reasoning, that reached maturity, they should pray. That's fard ayn. Fard ayn. Fard kifaya is if a group does it. No, like for example, let's say I die, right? We're all gonna die. I'm gonna tell you what one of my teachers, rahmatullah alayhi, said. He said, "We're busy pursuing the dunya, and behind us, death is chasing us, and we're unaware." Right? Like we're actually going closer to it, but it's behind us too. So if we know that, how would we take care of our steps and our actions? So again, let's say I pass away, and brother Hamza and brother Jerry, they're the only ones around, and the sisters as well. And they come and, for some reason, there's no Muslims around. There's an area where it's only us. And you guys did the janazah for me. And then other people found out, oh, why we didn't know. And why would they get a sin for not doing janazah? No. Fard kifaya, you already did it. So that obligation was covered. Right? But let's say the brother who is 86 years old, who lived like 40 minutes away from here, who converted to Islam while in the critical state of health in a hospice, and didn't get to learn how to pray, but used to read Quran and passed away recently. And because we were far from him, right? We didn't get to go visit him. We didn't get to write a will for him so that he can be buried as a Muslim. They ended up cremating him and burying him, right? We can say cremation is haram. That's not that. There's a bigger problem. The bigger problem is that the blame for no funeral service goes on all of the ummah unless somebody does it. So when I found out about that, and the doctor that used to take care of him prayed with us in that Jummah last week, not last Friday, the Friday before, we did the janazah of Ghaib for him. We did the janazah for him, even though the body wasn't there. It's called the janazah of absentee, right? The janazah of absentee. So that's when somebody is not there to do it. If it wasn't done, then we should do it. Right? So the same thing. So that's what fard kifaya mean, right? So now because we did the janazah in mouth, all the other Muslims are free from that sin because we fulfilled that right for the brother that passed away. Now, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah. So here, look. This is the hadith. Look. It was related. by Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, لو أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رأى ما أحدث النساء لمنعهن المسجد كما منعهن إسرائيل. Now again, so the youth that are still not mature yet are encouraged to go to the masjid. And this is in a place where it's like a village. There's a village, and you want to teach them the prayer. So they learn how to go to the masjid, how to enter the masjid, so that they can learn about the importance of Salat al-Jama'ah. Right? They can learn about Salat al-Jama'ah. Then we also have Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ثم شرع مسلم شروط الاقتداء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فضيلة الجماعة لشخص الصلاة ونحوها. So then we have إنما جعل الإمام ليتم به ليتم به. So now the following of the Imam, right? The following of the Imam. It is more beloved, right? It is more beloved to follow the Imam and complete with the Imam, right? And it is more beloved to do it in the beginning of the time, right? Beginning of time. And also it says in the hadith, it says, Bismillah, إنما جعل الإمام ليتم به فإذا كبر فكبروا. It says the Imam, this is in Bukhari. The Imam was made to be followed. So if he says Allahu Akbar, you say Allahu Akbar. Okay. Then so the if the Imam finishes, let's say the rak'ah, and is in the last unit of prayer, the last unit, and he says Sami Allahu liman hamida, then you lost the prayer. Like let's say you come for Jummah and the Imam is in the second rak'ah, right? We pray 2 rak'ahs for Jummah, 2 units. Jummah, not Jama'ah. Jummah is Friday prayer. And the Imam is in ruku' in the second rak'ah. And he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and that's when you join. Then you miss Jummah, you miss that Jummah prayer. You finish with him, but then you go ahead and you make 4 rak'ats for Dhuhr. That's like the end of Jummah. If you catch the Imam and he is in ruku' in the second rak'ah, and you say Allahu Akbar, if you think the time is short, then remember that this takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbirat al-ihram, is obligatory, right? But then the takbirat of going to ruku' is sunnah. So therefore you can say the first takbir, Allahu Akbar, and go into ruku'. Okay, and go into ruku'. Because if you do Allahu Akbar and then Allahu Akbar, by the time you do those 2 takbirs, the Imam must say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, you miss the whole rak'ah. Okay? And so if you catch the Imam in ruku', then that rak'ah is done and you make up 1 and you got your Jummah. Okay? So that is the but the imam should be followed, right? And now in practice, in regards of the intention, that also in the Shafi madhab is is um, is a little bit more flexible. For example, if somebody's making sunnah prayer and you come late, you can join them. If you didn't make, let's say they're making sunnah of dhuhr, and you just walked in and salat al-dhuhr finished, and you come, you can join the person in prayer. You can join the person in prayer, right? And you can make it dhuhr. Now, I'm going to just, it's good for you to know who you're trying to join. Because if the person follows a different school, like for example, if a person follows the Hanafi school, then if you're going to join them and the person is making sunnah and you're intending to do fard, they're not going to lead you in prayer. They're going to stay quiet and they're going to continue praying. And some might even just push you away. In the Shafi madhab, it is allowed for, even if the person is making sunnah, for you to join. You make the 2 rakats with them, but your intention is to make your fard and your intention is to pray in group. So the masjid not everybody follows the same way. The same way some people put their hands here and some people put their hands here and some people put their hands on the navel or some people above the navel or below the navel. There's 4 different ways. In the Malik is like this, right? Or even with the hands on the side. So it's good to understand. This is why this knowledge is important, so that you can understand other people how they're praying, right? And you don't say, no, but I learned it that way and this is the right way. No, if they're following a school, they also have books that have this information, right? So that's the reality in America. If you go to like Pakistan, the whole country follows one way, so it's easy. If you go to Morocco, a good percentage follow the Maliki school, so it's one way, right? If you go to these different regions, you have that. You come to America, all of the Muslim countries are in the masjid. Pakistan, India, American, right? It's all mixed, right? So it's a little bit more challenging. Now, وَعَلَى الْمَأْمُونَ, then it says the follower must intend to follow, but it's not required that the imam intend to lead. So بالإمام أو الاقتداء أو نحو ذلك في غير الجمعة مطلقا التحرم لأن التبعية عمل فاقتدروا هي فإن لم ينوي معه. So in the regular jama'ah, in the regular congregation, then it's not you don't have to make the intention, right? The imam, it says like the intention shouldn't be with the imam. You follow them, but the intention shouldn't be with the imam. Like I said, like if the intention is different, it's allowed. But in Jummah, you have to. In Jummah, you have to intend to complete with the imam. Then it says, الثاني شروط الاقتداء. So also another condition من شروط الاقتداء عدم التقدم المأمون على الإمام في مكان. Okay, so there's 2 things. عدم التقدم للمأمون في المكان أو أثناء الصلاة. Meaning that if you're following the imam, right? And let's say this is the masjid, right? This is the masjid and this is the front of the masjid, right? And the men's section is here in this section, right? In this section. So I'm doing the rectangular table, right? The rectangular table. So let's say the imam is leading on one side of the table, right? I'm going to put it like this, guys, all right? So let's say this is the table, right? and the imam is leading right here, and the front of the mosque is all the same. And let's say this side here is for the men, and this side here is for the women, like half of the phone. All right? And now if the women pray, they'll be in the same row as the men. You see that? So it should be that at least if the walls are the same, that's why we have the mihrab. So the imam is more in front than the rest of the people. Right? So therefore, if there's no mihrab, no carving on the wall where the imam stands to pray, then the woman should be at least one row back. So that they're not in front of the imam. Or if somebody's praying outside, and let's say the imam is praying, and this is where the imam is praying, right? The imam is praying, and a person prays in front of the mosque. He hears the sound, but he's actually praying in front of the imam. Then that's not valid. He can pray on the side of the mosque, but not in front of the imam. So that's one. You should not be in front of the imam, because the imam is the one leading. That's number one. Number two is that you should not go ahead of the imam. Okay? So, for example, when you're praying by yourself, when you're leading the prayer, you take things in consideration. Okay? So let's say you're praying by yourself. You can say Allahu Akbar, right? You go down, Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu liman hamidah. You can do it at your pace. But when you're leading the prayer, right? I'm going to just give you a little example, right? Stand here, right? So you're leading the prayer. When you're leading the prayer, and you know that there's a group behind you. If I go like this, some people, when you say Allahu Akbar, you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and you're going down. Some people, once they hear the Allahu Akbar, they switch, and they might go faster than you. So you say Allahu Akbar, and you're going down, and the other person goes Allahu Akbar, right? So therefore, they went ahead of the imam, and their salah can be invalid. Their salah is invalid for going ahead of the imam. So what do? I know in the Shafi madhab, when you say Allahu Akbar, this space from standing to ruku', you like to fill it up with dhikr. So you say Allahu Akbar. You see that the whole space is filled with dhikr. Like Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu liman hamida, the whole space. You go into ruku', Allahu Akbar, the whole space of the motion is filled with dhikr. This is according to Naqib al-Masri in his book, Umdat al-Salik, The Reliance of the Traveler, right? They mentioned that detail, right? That Imam al-Nawawi mentioned. But what I do in my congregation is that my congregation is not all Shafi. So I have to take that in consideration, right? So what do? I go like this. Allahu Akbar. Like when I'm almost close, it's not according to the way we do it in the Shafi school. But not everybody behind me is Shafi, so I go, Allahu Akbar. So as I'm landing, I'm saying it. It gives time for the people in the back to come down. And whoever's fast, I beat them, right? And their prayer is valid. So the same thing. When you're making ruku', let's say you land in ruku', you're praying by yourself. Okay, you say, how many times you say, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim? 3 times, right? But when you're the imam, you can say it 6 times or 10 times. Why? Because if you got a person that's like Speedy Gonzalez, that's super fast, right? What happens? By the time you go like this, Allahu Akbar, and if the person is leading, he's fast. Sami Allahu liman hamida, right? The person that's behind trying to contemplate, and they're going into ruku', by the time they get into ruku', you're already standing. So they feel that it's like a race. Now, are they going to be at ease like we should be in prayer, in tranquility and ease? No. So the Imam, when he goes, Allahu Akbar, right? Subhana Rabbil Azim. Subhana Rabbil Azim. Subhana Rabbil Azim. You could say Subhana Rabbil Azim 3 more times or 10 times, or you can say Subbuh Quddus Rabbul Malaikati wal Ruh. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Now, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. But I know you have elders and they're still trying to get up. So I will say, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fi. So I add a little bit more to give the person in the back time to say, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbil Ala, Subhana Rabbil Ala, Subhana Rabbil Ala. Okay. I may do what the Prophet said, Fakthiru fi dua. Then after that, make dua in sujood. That's the best time to make dua. So the Imam should take in consideration that behind, like the Prophet ﷺ said, one time one of the companions was leading the prayer, and when he was leading the prayer, he read a long surah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, it would have been better if you would have read وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. These smaller surah. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't you know that behind you are the young, are the old, are the sick? So don't make it long on them. But if you're praying by yourself, pray how you want. You can make it as long. You spend an hour standing in one rak'ah, right? But that is Islam. Islam is like everybody should be taking consideration, right? You have a new Muslim and he's learning. You can't force him to do it the length that you have trained for years, right? So therefore, and also again, in following, you don't want to make them lose their prayer, because then their legs hurt. They're concerned. They want to finish, and maybe next time they're like, I came out of the mosque in pain, right? Because I was coming in a rush and I forgot to put my my compression socks, and standing so long gave me pain, and I don't want to sit down, and all right. So as the Imam, we make it easy for the people to worship, but we don't rush to it, right? We don't rush to it. So so the second is the condition of al-iqtida. Al-iqtida means following. Al-iqtida, alif lam alif qaf ta dal iqtida. Iqtida, that means following. So following is that the Imam, that the person should not be ahead of the Imam, number one, and number two, that the person the person should not go ahead of the Imam in the practice, in the motion. Okay. So Bismillah. So in regards of where does the Imam, this is bonus stuff. I'm doing this as a Salat al-Jama'ah, more information that we have covered. Where does the Imam stand to lead Salah in the Haram of Mecca? Yeah, that's the Kaaba, so you can pray anywhere, but where is it recommended to pray? Right? It's all the Qibla. But that's the Kaaba, but where does he stand?
Oh, I think it's outside.
Yeah, outside, but it's a specific location. Yeah. So let's say this is the Kaaba, right? So all of it is the Qibla. So he stands here, right? But there's a space, there's a place. I'm gonna give it to you. Don't worry, I'm gonna give it to you. Anybody online knows, Brother Rashid?
You talking about the Ibrahim station?
Did you search that or you had it? You know.
No, because I did it when I went. Alhamdulillah.
Maqam Ibrahim. The station of Ibrahim, the Imam stands, and Maqam Ibrahim is like a sutra, right? And the Imam is around it. Ahmed, su'al, bonus question. دخلت. But you came in, the heat turned on, everything happened, mashallah. Karama. أين يقف الإمام في مسجد الحرام؟ خلف مقام إبراهيم. مقام إبراهيم يقول like sutra. يقف هذا قال جدك يعني قال إمام الشافعي يسن أن يقف يسن ليس فردا يسن أن يقف الإمام خلف المقام عند الكعبة والمأمون حوله. So I mean that's mashallah is nice detail. Nice. لا, maybe they have a space, but this is yasin. Like لو واحد if somebody comes and they miss the jama'ah and they want to pray in a group and it's like kharij ayam al-hajj and the place is empty and you want to lead salah, it's better to yasin. It's recommended to pray there, right? MashaAllah. I'm going to try to do that one day when it gets empty and just come, let's just make jama'ah just for the benefit. So then it says, وَيَجُوزْ أَنْ يَتَمَّ بِالْمُقِيمِ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So then it says, مشهود اقتداء ويجوز للمصلي المتوضئ أن يتم بالمتيمم من معنى في عند الشافعية. And the Shafi'iyya is that if a person has wudu, and let's say the person that is leading salah was on tayammum, and he's leading the salah, is it permissible for a person who has wudu to be led by a person that has tayammum? Yes. Tayammum is using the soil. And then is it permissible for a person that is let's say a free person like us, right? Being led by a person who is by a person who is facet, a person who is a fasik, basically rebellious, a person who is commits corruption. Tukrah, it is disliked, is not forbidden. Tukrah, right? And there's a proof. Why tukrah? So, subhanAllah, sometimes, Allah musta'an, sometimes you have people or leaders or religious leaders or imams that if they differed with someone in a religious matter, they somehow use old arguments to state that it is not permissible to pray behind such person or such person. It's a Muslim. It's just ikhtilaf al-ara, different opinions. Here you have a Muslim praying behind one that's known for being fasiq, rebellious. Right? Rebellious, sinful, corrupter, right? So yukrah, what does karaha means? What does dislike mean? What is the definition? So you have fard means what? Obligatory. Let's go a little bit more advanced. We said fard al-ain, obligatory that everyone has to do it. What does fard kifaya mean? We explained it with fard kifaya. Fard kifaya is the communal obligation. If a group does it, nobody else is required to do it. Right? That's communal obligation. That's in fard. Number two, sunnah. What is the definition of sunnah? What is the definition of sunnah? So fard is obligatory. Sunnah is recommended. So you cannot say you have to do it because it's sunnah. Now you're saying it's obligatory because it's sunnah. لازم تفعله لا هذا كلام شرعي. If you say لازم تفعل, that's أمر. So there is contradiction. You should do it because it's recommended. Doesn't make sense. It is sunnah. Al-afdal, if you don't have no mana, and it's not because of kaslan that you're lazy, yani do as much of the sunnah as you can. Right? The definition of sunnah, shar'an, is that action that if you do it, you get rewarded for. But if you don't do it, you don't get sins. But this, you don't do it, meaning if you don't do it because you can't do it, because let's say you're going to work or this or that, but if you don't, it's not that you don't do it because out of negligence. It's just sunnah, I don't need to do it. La, that's not what it means. You understand that it means if you are not able to do it. And then what is makruh? Makruh is those actions that are disliked, that if you do it, you get no sin. Is disliked. But the makruh can lead you to the haram. The makruh, if you don't do it in order to preserve istabra adinuk wa irduk, to preserve your religion and your honor, like in the hadith, al halalu bayyin wal haramu bayyin, the halal is clear and the haram is clear, in the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. And then it says, baynahuma umuru mushtabihat, in between there are matters that are not clear. La ya'lamuha illa qalilu min nas, not many people know them. Whoever abstain from those unclear matters, preserves their deen and their honor. So if a person doesn't engage in the makruh, fearing to fall into the haram, then he gets ajr, he gets reward. But if he does it, there is no sin. And what's the proof? Rawahu Shaykhan. Who are the two sheikhs? Huh? Who are the two sheikhs? Now in the Shafi madhab, in hadith. In the Shafi madhab, the Shaykhan is al-Rafi and Nawawi. In hadith. Right, Sister Khadija? Like Umdat Salik, the reliance of the traveler is the opinions of al-Rafi and Imam al-Nawawi, both. All right? And so in hadith, who were the Shaykhan? That is also known as Muttafaq alayh, or is also known as Sahihain. Yalla, bismillah, you want some coffee?
Bukhari and Muslim?
Bukhari, there we go, akhiran. We need some more date cookies that we ate last night in Qiyam, brother Hudayfa.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, those they were amazing, mashallah. So yes, so it says Rawahu Shaykhan, Anna Ibn Umar, the son of Umar ibn Khattab, kana yusalli khalf al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Right? Who was the Hajjaj ibn Yusuf? The one that ordered to kill Zubayr ibn Awam, right? Right? So this is and then قال الشافعي رضي الله عنه وكفى به, and Hajjaj was sufficient. He was Muslim, but sufficient enough as a fasiq. Imam Shafi said, kind of daraja, high level fasiq, right? So then some later scholars, see, that's what I'm saying, and some modern scholars in our times, they tend to sometimes go by the later scholars, which is not wrong, but there's another opinion. لم يصح كما قال بعض المتأخرين, that is not allowed to pray behind the fasiq and so on. But now when you compare, with all due respect, بكل احترام المتأخرين أو عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما. You understand? Abdullah bin Umar, was a mufti, was a great scholar, a great sahabi in fiqh, and so and there's a lot more, there's a lot of more kalam about that. And then it says ولا البالغ بالمراهق, والبالغ بالمراهق, meaning it is not permissible for wait a minute. This fasik, I'm not sure is in the text, but it's okay. We need what's in the text is al-hulu bil-abd, the servant. In that time when there was slavery, it's saying that the yajuz, that is permissible for the free person to pray behind a fasik, and it's permissible for a free person to pray behind a slave, right? If he knows how to pray, he knows the salah. And also it is permissible for a baligh, a mature person, to be led by a murahiq, by one that is going through adolescence, that's beginning. Baligh is the one that reached adolescence. Murahiq is the one that's beginning, that's beginning, right? Because Amru ibn Salama, Amru ibn Salama, Amru ibn Salama was the son of Salama. And Amr ibn Salama led his people in prayer in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was 6 or 7 years old. And this was related in Bukhari. Okay, so sometimes there is an opinion of some, of a school that does not allow it, right? Because maybe the child is not mature, maybe the child does not have the beard, maybe the child doesn't, right? But this is just a proof for allowing it, right? Not a proof against that position, but saying that this is a hadith, that was a narration that was related in Bukhari and Muslim, that Amr bin Salama led the prayer when he was 6 or 7 years old. But if we have to choose between a person who's mature and a person who's going through maturity, then we give preference to a person who's mature. If someone knows how to pray well, and there's a person who memorized the Quran, we give preference to one who memorized more Quran or memorized the Quran. It's not because, if the person is appointed and he knows how to pray, then he should be led to pray, right? It's not, if he's appointed, then that should be honored, right? So then we have, and it is not allowed for the woman to lead a man in salah, right? It is not allowed, and it is not allowed for a person who can like read and can recite, to be led by someone who does not know, who does not know how to pray. Then it mentions الرجل بأمي, and then it mentions أن الله يرى المشركين رسولا. And now it's talking about the place, that if the ma'mun, those who are following, are praying in a place, and they can follow, and they're not in front of the imam, and they can hear the prayer, and they know what's going on. وَهُوَ عَالِمُ بِالصَّلَاةِ, he knows what, that's what I mentioned. عَالِمُ بِالصَّلَاةِ, it is permissible for him to pray even if it's outside and the window's open, right? And the prayer is valid, and he's close to him. right? He's not very like within the premises. وهو عالم بالصلاة ولا حال هناك جائز. It is permissible. Like if he knows the prayer, and if he's outside of the masjid, then that is then that is permissible. There is also Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So when does the following the Imam end? Right? When does the following of the Imam end?
When the Imam makes taslim,
Good. Which taslim?
The first one.
finish the prayer.
First one. The first one is obligatory. The second one is sunnah. Right? So like I mentioned, for those that weren't here, just as a reminder, if you make the first taslim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, the Imam does this, right? And then right when he says that, he already said it, so you complete it with him. Even though you're saying it after, but you already completed with him. And you pass gas. Right? What do? You can get out from Salah, but your Salah is valid. You don't need to go make wudu and pray again because you finished the first taslim. The first Assalamu alaikum is obligatory. If after that happens, then you don't need to do the whole prayer again.
Is that Sheikh Daniel? Is that the opinion in all four madhabs or just the Shafi'i madhab?
I will get you the answer, inshallah. I will say like Imam Malik said, Ma adri. I don't know. That's a good question, inshallah. All right, that's a good question. Just text it in the group, inshallah. Right. So I have to go because it's time for Salat al-Isha, inshallah. So inshallah, I'm gonna getting ready for travel. So I will travel next week, the 23rd to the 30th, inshallah. So we'll resume again in January, inshallah. So we still have some time in January to cover this section on these prayers, the Salat like Eid and Jummah and all these prayers. And then in February, we have from February to the 28th, 29th for Ramadan. So during that time, we do the fiqh of fasting according to the Matan Abi Shuja, according to that same book. All right, so we'll continue the Salah, the prayer section in January. And then whether we complete it or not, in February, we'll start the book of fasting so that we can prepare for Ramadan, inshallah. And we'll cover more spots in the book, inshallah. All right? Barakallah fikum. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. I guess you guys no questions, right? We're good with
One quick question, Sheikh Daniel. I know you have to leave. When it comes to who's leading, is it who knows more Quran or who knows Fatiha the best?
So let's do this, Brother Osman. I will after prayer. We could do timed. I bring the timer 15 minutes, and inshallah we'll answer the questions. Inshallah, we'll give some time. So think of your questions, and inshallah we'll get to it. Inshallah, all right.
Inshallah.
Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum